is and should be a touchdown. Here we go. Bryson Mars has got his back behind him. It is Jaquindon Jackson. Here's the snap. Bryson Barnes looking deep. He's got a man. It's caught! He's gone! Touchdown early!
Well, good morning and welcome everyone to College Football Wraparound. I'm Cooper Naylor, and what a day. It is the first full Saturday of the college football season. We are so pumped to be here with you. And then tonight, we got a good game here on the network. We've got Notre Dame and Texas A&M. Going to be a fun day of football for sure. And really, we got a triple header of games that's going to be great. Here coming up in less than an hour, you got Penn State, West Virginia playing, and then you got Georgia and Clemson, two really good games. At 2:30, you got Miami and Florida, part of the first SEC on ABC game since before the SEC on CBS package, which was a long time ago. And then in prime time, of course, here on the network, we got Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Should be a whole lot of fun. So we got a lot to dive into. We're going to talk about North Carolina, Minnesota, kind of recap, kind of get you the storylines. Of course, as you know, Max Johnson, the starting quarterback, he is out for the season. We're going to get you more information about that. We're going to talk about Colorado and North Dakota State. That game was a good one to watch. Then we're going to talk about TCU and Stanford last night, which was an incredible football game. And then, of course, we're going to dive into the games that we have coming up this weekend, kind of preview the games. And then, of course, we got our game picks, which I got to say, game picks records is very close. So you're going to want to watch this entire show today. So let's go ahead and dive into North Carolina and Minnesota. Now, you wonder, how did this game go? Well, I'm going to get you some information here right quick so that you have so that you know what happened in that game. So, North Carolina, as you can see in the picture, this is after Minnesota attempted what would have been a game-winning field goal, ended up missing. North Carolina survives, and North Carolina 19-17, the win on the road. So, if you look at Max Johnson, before he was taken out of the game, he was 12-19, 71 yards, and one interception. Connor Harrell ended up taking his spot. He threw 4 passes. He was 2 of 4, 34 yards. It was really the run game with Omarion Hampton. That is a guy that you're going to want to watch this season. He had 30 carries, 129 yards, and his longest one was 16 yards. Max Johnson, 6 carries, 10 yards, and a touchdown. Nate McCollum, he had 1 carry, 9 yards. Barlow had 1 for 2, and then Harrell he had 3 attempts for -3 yards, which means that he may have been sacked once, and his longest run was of 1 yard. So, then you look at the receiving game. Jones had 3 for 52. Hampton had 5 for 17. Nesbitt had 2 for 15. Johnson had 1 for 7. Hamilton 1 for 7. Barlow 1 for 5. McCollum 1 for 2. So, that is how that stacked up for North Carolina. First of all, if you look at North Carolina, they are going to be a run-heavy team. You're not really going to be looking to throw the ball all that much, which when you have a guy like Omarion Hampton, you can pretty much just run the ball all day long. Plus, it's Minnesota. It was a good game, though. Then you look at Minnesota. Now, they've got an interesting quarterback, Max Brosmer. He went 13-21 for 165 yards. And then, if you remember this name, Marcus Major. Now, you may be thinking, where do I know that name? Well, he was one of the many running backs at Oklahoma last year that transferred out after Jeff Levy, the offensive coordinator, he left to take the Mississippi State job. So Marcus Major made his way to Minnesota. Now, from watching that game, PJ Fleck, he said he had a lot of compliments for Marcus Major. mainly saying that this guy reminds him of Muhammad Ibrahim, who was the star running back for Minnesota for a couple of years there. So high praise when it comes to PJ Fleck, which Ibrahim was one of the best running backs in the game. So that's one thing to keep in mind. So Marcus Major, he had 20 carries, 73 yards, and a touchdown. Driver had 1 carry for 4 yards. Newman had 2 for 3. Jackson had 1 for 3. And then Brosmer had 9 for -4. So you look at the receipt at the passing game, Jackson, 4 for 55. Brockington, 1 for 38. Spencer, 2 for 25. Newman, 2 for 20. Major, 1 for 11. Gears, 1 for 9. Kellerup, 1 for 6. And Driver, 1 for 1. So you look at this game, early on, very defensive-centric football game. It was a kind of one of those that you had to play. Whoever could score first pretty much won the game. North Carolina did take a 7-0 lead, but then they got down 14-7. Ended up winning. Ended up the last half of the game. They ended up outscoring Minnesota 12-3 to end up getting that 19-17 win. Minnesota had a chance with their last-second field goal. It missed, and so North Carolina survives. This was, like we said, it was a very defensive football game for the majority of the game, and so in both of these teams, I think it's going to come down to how does their run game play out. That's really going to be the story that we are going to be watching this season. So, of course, like we like to do on the channel, we do not really start predicting how these teams are going to do whenever the season starts. We're going to just wait until pretty much like midway through the season and be like, okay, here's where we see this team going. This team may not really get very far and whatnot. So that is really the gist of what happened there. Also, keep in mind that this game, North Carolina, Minnesota, had a delay because of weather. So that's something to keep in mind. So it's a good football game, though. And then we turn our attention now to the other game that was really good on Thursday night, Colorado and North Dakota State. Now, you may be asking me, Cooper, how in the world did North Dakota State make this a good football game? Well, okay, there's two things here, okay? First of all, North Dakota State is one of the best FCS schools of all time. North Dakota State, when you think of like perennially good football teams that just win all the time, North Dakota State is one of those. Okay? They're in that same category as like Alabama, Georgia, that kind of caliber, but they're on the FCS level. So, really, North Dakota State played an incredible football game. They led at halftime. That's something that people are going to forget. But they were up 20-17 at the break. And really, I would go as far as to say I think North Dakota State outplayed Colorado most of this game. It took a last-second stand on a Hail Mary to eliminate the opportunity for North Dakota State to win this football game. Now, Colorado, they've got a lot to learn, and that is also they got to learn how to bat the football down on a Hail Mary. It's like, dude, bat the ball down. Let the game end. Don't try to catch it. Well, they tried to catch the ball and nearly cost Colorado the game. Again, let's look at the stats for these teams. If I can get to pull up. So we're going to get the stats pulled up. This will tell us a little bit about this game. So, really, let's see here. Here we go. So we're going to start with North Dakota State. Cam Miller, which is the quarterback, had an incredible game. 18-22, 277 yards, 1 touchdown. You look at the run game. Cam Miller, 16 for 81 and 2 touchdowns. Shamar Brown, 9 for 33. Barika Pinu, had 9 for 32. Bryce Lance, 1 for 8. TK Marshall, 3 for 5. Cole Payton, 4 for 5. And then Raja Nelson, 1 for -7. So, you look at the passing game. Braylon Henderson, 5 for 72. TK Marshall, 1 for 48. Tyler Turhark, 2 for 48. Raja Nelson, 4 for 45. Bryce Lance, 3 for 32. Joe Stoffel, 3 for 31. Jamar Brown, 1 for 12. And Chris Harris, 1 for 4. Stoffel had the only receiving touchdown on North Dakota State. Now, Colorado, on the other hand, you had Shedeur Sanders, 26-34, 445 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. You look at the run game, Dallin Hayden, 9 for 20. Shedeur, 6 for 17. Charlie Offerdahl, 5 for 15. Draylen Miller, 2 for 7. And then Travis Hunter, 1 for no yards. And then you look at the receiving game. Jimmy Horn, 7 receptions, 198 yards, 1 touchdown. Travis Hunter, 7 for 132 and 3 touchdowns. LaJohntay Wester, 5 for 58. Will Shepard, 2 for 23. Dallin Hayden, 1 for 14. Charlie Offerdahl, 2 for 13. Draylen Miller, 2 for 7. So, you can see that both of these teams had very different contrasts of how they played offense. North Dakota State's more of a run-it-down-your-throat kind of team. And that was really the thing, is that Colorado has not, at least in the first game, they did not improve defensive-wise. They let North Dakota State do whatever they wanted to on offense. Now, they did get a couple of big plays. Other than that, Colorado's defense did not show up Thursday night. So that's going to be the big deal here, is that I think if you're Colorado, you've got to play better defense. Now, Shedeur Sanders played good football. Again, though, he had to really make some plays happen. The offensive line really did not show up as great. So there's still some things that you saw Thursday night that they're still struggling with that they had all of last season. So it's going to be interesting to see how Colorado does. North Dakota State, though, this was a good football game. And it would have been interesting to see, had they won, what would we be talking about today? So, Colorado survives a scare from North Dakota State. So then we're going to talk about TCU and Stanford. Another great football game, which was last night. Now, TCU went up 34-24 with about a minute and a half to go in the game. And then, of course, Stanford would go on and get a field goal. So if you look at the numbers, TCU's Josh Hoover, 28 of 42, 2 touchdowns on 353 passing yards. Run game, Cam Cook, 20 for 81 and a touchdown. Trey Sanders, 2 for 11. Savion Williams, 1 for 7. Haas Hejny, 2 for 7. Jack Beck, 0 for 7. Dominique Johnson, 1 for 2. Josh Hoover, 5 for -3. And then passing game, Jack Beck, 6 for 139 and a touchdown. JP Richardson, 6 for 107. Savion Williams, 11 for 85, 1 touchdown. DJ Rogers, 1 for 8. Drake Dabney, 1 for 5. Major Everhart, 1 for 4. Cam Cook, 1 for 3. And Blake Noel, 1 for 2. And then, so, that's TCU. Really pretty balanced. And then you look at Stanford, Ashton Daniels, 17 to 35, 163, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. You look at the run game, 17 for 87. Cedric Irvin, 5 for 24. Micah Ford, 10 for 18. Justin Lamson, 2 for 3. Ishmael Cece, 2 for -10. And then you look at the receiving game for Stanford, Alec Ayamaner, 7 for 102. Ishmael Cece, 3 for 17 and a touchdown. Jackson Harris, 2 for 14 and a touchdown. Sam Roush, 2 for 11. Tiger Bachmeyer, 2 for 11. And then Micah Ford, 2 for 10. First of all, reactions. TCU and Stanford are about the same level as each other. And it was really so it was really just interesting to watch. And I mean, you got to be honest and say that both of these teams really played some really good football. One thing to watch, Ashton Daniels. He did a really good job. He is a very mobile quarterback, and it's going to be fun to watch him throughout the season because of just the ability to get out and run and make some plays. Stanford, really, I would say this. They could be a very interesting team in the ACC. Although they were picked to be last, they could be interesting. TCU, another team that just really, if you look at where they could go this season, could be very interesting. So that's something to keep in mind, is that both of these teams are, I think, a lot more improved from last season. And then, so last topic before we start previewing some of the games, you got Max Johnson, who got hurt the other day. So I'm going to try to get this to pull up. But Max Johnson, he undergoes season-ending leg surgery. So this is an article from ESPN. Of course, we're going to look at this for a minute. So it says North Carolina quarterback Max Johnson will miss the remainder of the season with a broken right leg suffered in the team's 19-17 season opening win at Minnesota on Thursday. The school said Friday that Johnson underwent leg surgery on his leg in Minneapolis and will return to Chapel Hill in a few days. His parents, Brad and Nikki, remain with him in Minnesota. And then, of course, it goes on to tell about Johnson, who had transferred to North Carolina from Texas A&M this past offseason. He had, of sort, won the starting competition. Although that's not really accurate, Mac Brown still said he was going to play both quarterbacks, ended up having to because of Max Johnson's injury. Now, the question, I'm going to try to find this, about if, really the question I have is, okay. So it doesn't answer that at all. I was going to see if Max Johnson still would have any eligibility left to potentially play next season. I'm not 100% certain on that. Of course, he is a graduate transfer, so I don't know if he's a medical redshirt, because if the redshirt rules are how I believe they are, I believe that you can play 4 games and still be able to redshirt. So he may be able to use that medical redshirt and play next year if he so chooses. Also, Connor Harrell, depending on how he plays this season, he is a redshirt sophomore. So if Connor Harrell, let's say he has an incredible season and he looks like he could be an NFL quarterback, then he could go to the NFL, and that could open the way. If Max Johnson does still have eligibility to play in college football, he could be the starting quarterback for North Carolina next season, setting up a great situation. Also, just for more information, backup quarterback is now going to be Jacoby Criswell. He started his career at Arkansas, so that is if you remember him coming in for KJ Jefferson a couple times, that is who will be the backup quarterback now for North Carolina. All right. Now let's turn our attentions to what about Boston College and Florida State. Now we're going to have the game Monday night here on Saber Broadcast Network, and so, okay. So Colton Naylor is helping me out a little bit. He says that Max Johnson does have one more year because of the injury. Okay, so that is very helpful to see right there. I didn't want to say anything without verifying my sources there, so that's good to know. Boston College and Florida State. Really, I think the big story here, how is Florida State going to show up after basically dropping an egg against Georgia Tech? Now, Florida State, if you remember last week, they went to Ireland, and I would say Georgia Tech outplayed them. I don't think there's any other way to say it than Georgia Tech just outplayed Florida State. And so the question being is, what does that defensive line for Florida State look like Saturday or Monday night? And then also, can that run game get going? They only had 98 yards running the ball as a team. That's not going to cut it in a game where you're going to have to play against Boston College, because you got Bill O'Brien as a new head coach. And if you don't put up enough points, I'm pretty sure a guy like Thomas Castellanos, who is a very dual threat quarterback, I would say, he can pass it, he can throw, he can pass it, he can run with the ball. So Boston College is going to be a tough game for Florida State. There's a reason why we have them have Florida State at 25. We still think Florida State has an advantage over Boston College, but it's going to be a game that Florida State's going to have to show up and play some defense, better defense, in order to win this game. We got Miami and Florida. That is today at 2:30. Like we said earlier, that is the first game of the new SEC on ABC package. It's going to be a fun one, folks. You got Cam Ward going up against Graham Mertz in the Swamp. This is going to be a fun football game. This is one that I feel like you're not going to want to turn off, because it's going to be very high scoring. And, of course, this starts what is going to be Florida. And, in my opinion, the toughest schedule in college football right now is the Florida Gators. I mean, you got Miami, and to begin the season, this is tough. Miami's going to be much better. They got a pretty good receiving core. And so that's going to be the real competition, is just the duel, like the battle between quarterbacks, which one can outplay each other. Graham Mertz, I think, had a great season last year, although the team wasn't incredible. So that's something to keep in mind. I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch. So keep that in mind. And then we have Penn State and West Virginia coming up here in the next 30-plus minutes. Again, this is a duel, like the battle between quarterbacks. You got Drew Aller, and then you got Garrett Green. Really, I'm interested to see, what does this Penn State offense look like after getting a new offensive coordinator. They should be better, but again, it's going to be interesting. Last year in this game, they played at Penn State in prime time. Drew Aller, he looked amazing in this game, and West Virginia too looked pretty good in the game too. So, I would say this: Drew Aller is going to be interesting, and then you got the run game with Nick Singleton. This is clearly one of the, as far as you look at offensive, what they return on the offensive side, they should be one of the better offenses in college football. But again, it's all going to come down to, what does Drew Aller look like, and what does this offense look like? So, going to be a fun one coming up here in just a few minutes. And then you got the other game coming up here in the next few minutes. You got Georgia and Clemson. Again, the real challenge here is watching the Clemson defense against that Georgia offense. That's going to be a really fun game to watch. Georgia, you got Carson Beck and all the other guys on that offense. I think Georgia is going to be a really fun team to watch this season. Clearly, I think they're the best team in the sport right now. And it's really going to be fun to watch this game. Clemson's defense, we'll see how they show up. The one narrative that's been put on Clemson that today we'll see if it's true or not is that Dabo hasn't really been able to adapt to the transfer portal and everything else that goes along with college football. We're going to see. And he made a good point, because I was watching, he did an interview with ESPN, and he basically said that they're still one of the top 5 teams with talent. So it's still going to be interesting to see how this Georgia-Clemson game goes. And so, we'll see how that one goes. Then tomorrow night, also here on the channel, LSU USC. Again, this is the battle of the quarterbacks. Now, you remember last year you had Jaden Daniels, who is the reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and Caleb Williams, who was at the time he won the Heisman Trophy 2 years ago. They were two of the best quarterbacks in the game, and both of them are gone now. They went to the NFL, and so now you're left with Garrett Nussmeier, Moss. We're going to see what these offenses are going to look like. I think the real challenge here is going to be, what do the defenses look like? Because USC has been kind of poor when it comes to defense, and LSU, I think, has gotten better on defense. So that's really the challenge, is to see who's going to play better defense today. Is it going to be LSU or is it going to be USC? Or tomorrow, I mean. So that's going to be the challenge, and then to see which quarterback shows up and which one doesn't. Or both quarterbacks may show up and play some good football. So we'll see. And then tonight, Notre Dame and Texas A&M. Now, the real story here is when Riley Leonard hits the football field and going up against his former coach Mike Elko and that Texas A&M defense. Mike Elko is a defensive guy, so that's going to be a lot of fun to see. Can Riley Leonard play a good football game against a Texas A&M defense? That should be a lot better. We're going to see. It's going to be a fun game, and so that's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch. Now, what we're going to do is take a short commercial break, and then we are going to come back, and it will be time to have some guests on to talk about some games that are going on around the country and, do some predictions. If I can get my editor. Here we go. All right. So let's go to commercial break, and we'll be right back. All right, now we are back, and I'm going to. All right, we'll have my guests come on in just a moment. Of course, we are going to have Colton and Jack join us for some game picks. So, of course, we're going to be talking about some of the games. So let's go ahead. I'm going to get the games picks records just pulled up, and we'll be set for whenever Colton and Jack joins. So, all right. I think we've got one being ready to go. And so, of course, we will wait and see if we can get Jack in here. He may be doing something. So Colton is going to join me here in studio. So he can go ahead. Of course, we got our game picks records pulled up here. So here we go. So he's going to He is working on getting here. Of
course, we're going to work and get Jack on. I don't know. He may have had something go on. But, of course, Colton, your microphone is turned on. So how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Of course, we are going to do some game picks. Let me see about Jack. All right. So here is Jack. Let's see if he can. I don't know if he can hear us. So we'll wait and see if he can hear us. He may. Don't know if he can hear us yet. So can you hear us, Jack? Okay. Can you hear us? Okay. I'm gonna send Colton in there to see if he can get Jack set up real quick. So we'll be back with them in just a second. So I'm gonna go ahead and full screen me. So of course we got a lot to talk about. We've got our games picks records pulled up, and you can see that it is very close with them. Let's go ahead. I'm going to put it in full screen here just to let you see what it's looking like. You have, and it's really close. So I've got a slight lead at 5-1. Jack is at 5-2. Colton at 5-2, and our viewers are at 5-2. So it's very close. We're going to do some game picks. I don't know. You still can't hear. We're working on getting him set up. Let's just take another commercial break, and we will. All right, we are back, and so let's see here. So let's see, Jack, can you hear us? Okay, he still cannot hear us. I don't think. I don't know what. Oh. All right, so we're still working on getting it set up. I don't know what the issue is right here. So I don't know if he's got the microphone plugged in. I don't know. I really don't know what's going on right now. So we're going to pick some games here soon. I'm thinking he may not have the microphone plugged in. Let me text Colton again. Okay, so we are working on this. I'm going to go see if I can help figure this out. I don't know what is going on. We'll be back. And here's the snap. Hands it to Audric Estime, and that is and should be a touchdown. Here we go. Bryson Mars has got his back. And here's the snap. Hands it to Audric Estime, and that is and should be a touchdown. All right. All right. We are back. I don't know. Jack may come on here in a minute. I'm not sure. I think we got most of what was the issues fixed for the moment. But I think he had to step away for a minute. So we'll see with him if he joins us here in the next few minutes. So Colton, here here again are the game picks records for you to look at. But it may just be us for today.
Okay.
But that's your games picks records. We'll get later tonight. If Jack does not join us, we will give you his picks just so that he doesn't have to miss out on picking games. So let's go ahead and start. We got Boston College and Florida State. Colton, who's winning this one?
I got Florida State. It's hard not to pick them, even after losing to Georgia Tech. But I don't feel like Boston College is as good as Florida State is. Therefore, Florida State will easily win this.
Okay. I agree. I think Florida State will win, but I think it's going to be a very tight game on Monday night. After watching them on last Saturday, I don't see a world where Florida State runs away with any game this season unless they're playing some low-level team. So I got Florida State in a very close game. All right. Coming up at 2:30, Miami against Florida. This is a fun game. Colton, who do you got winning?
I got Miami. Their quarterback's really good, and I feel like this is kind of the year for them to win the ACC. And Florida's just not that good, and they have a really tough schedule. I feel like they have a good coach. I just don't feel like they have the right team around them. So,
all right. Well, I'm going to go with the upset here. I'm going to go with Florida. I think you're going into the swamp. There's just something different about playing an SEC school. Even with as good as Miami's going to be, and I still think they could be really good this season, I just think that Florida's a better team right now. I got Florida. Okay. And then coming up also here in the next few minutes, Penn State and West Virginia go up against each other. Colton, who do you got?
I got Penn State. I would like to see West Virginia win this, but it's hard not to pick the Big Ten team, the team with the better quarterback, better coach. It's gonna be Penn State.
I gotta go Penn State as well. Like in my preview of the game, I think that Penn State, if their offense can play better than what they did last year, or if they can play to that same level as what they did against West Virginia last year, they're at Penn State. I think Penn State can win this game. So I think it's going to be a fun one. And so I got Penn State winning this one. And then Georgia and Clemson, who do you got?
I got Georgia. This is probably one of the better games this year because I do feel like these are two playoff teams. This could be the national championship, but I just gotta go with Georgia. You really can't bet against them unless they're playing like a team that's really better. I just don't feel like Clemson's better, but I wouldn't be shocked if Clemson does win.
Okay. I've got Georgia as well. I think that Georgia's just going to be I just don't see Georgia losing very much at all this season. They're clearly, in my opinion, the best team in the college football going into the season. So it's going to be hard to beat Georgia. Okay. And then LSU and USC. First of all, we're also waiting to see. Not sure if Jack is going to come on. I think. Okay, so we can hear Jack. Here he is. Can you hear us, Jack?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. Let's see. So, camera can't really see his camera, but that'll be fine. At least we can hear him. We've done a couple game picks. We haven't got into LSU USC yet, but we're gonna go back and let you pick. We got Boston College and Florida State. Who do you got?
Oh, that's boring, but I go Florida State.
Okay. And then Miami and Florida at 2:30 today.
Well, everybody's on the Miami bandwagon thinking they're going to be better, but I'm going to upset Florida at home.
And then Penn State, West Virginia coming up here in a few minutes.
Well, there again, West Virginia, everybody's building them up. Penn State, playoff team.
Okay. Georgia and Clemson.
Yep, here we go again. Y'all all in Georgia. I'm going to upset again, Clemson.
Wow. Okay. So now we are here at LSU USC, what should be a really good game tomorrow night. It's being played in Vegas. So, Jack, I want to start with you. Who do you got?
Well, I guess I'm going to upset thing. USC.
Okay. Colton?
I think I'm gonna have to go with USC as well. I think LSU's good, but I think USC's gonna win.
I guess I'm a loner here. I'm going to go with LSU. I still think – I feel like LSU's going to have a better defense. I think that's going to ultimately help them win this game because I just don't see this USC defense being able to stop LSU, even though they got a new starting quarterback in Garrett Nussmeier. I'll take LSU here.
Well, you're a USC hater.
Okay. No, but okay.
Lincoln Riley hater.
All right. And then our final game, Notre Dame, Texas A&M, coming up later tonight. I'm going to not pick it because I'm calling the game. But Colton, you start off. Who do you got?
I don't really want to pick this game, but I guess Notre Dame maybe by just maybe a field goal will win. But this is just really close game. This might be the hardest one to pick.
Okay. Jack, who do you have?
Yeah, I'm like Colton. It's a hard one to pick, but I'm gonna go A&M at home.
Okay. So now that y'all have a little bit of an opportunity, just kind of give me, as far as the three games, well, the big three games of today: Georgia, Clemson, Miami, Florida, and then Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Just kind of give me, Jack, I'll let you start, what you think about Georgia and Clemson first off.
I'm looking more toward Clemson. I mean, there's been Garrett Riley's second year, Klebnik, his third year playing. I don't know. Everybody's kind of been down on Clemson, and I don't know. I'm looking for the upset with them. I know their defense is going to be really good. And last time they played each other was a 10-3 game, so I'm not convinced on Georgia.
Okay. So, Colton, what do you expect from this game?
It's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be somewhere in like the 21-14 range. Like it's not gonna be like a high scoring game, but I do think at least early it'll be some points on the board. But I agree. I think this could be like a national championship. Like there's two really good teams, so I wouldn't bet against either of these teams, honestly.
Okay. And then Miami and Florida. Jack, what is really some keys to the game that you see?
Well, I think sort of Miami's quarterback, Cam Ward. It's what's he going to be like? After playing Washington State last year, coming to the ACC, SEC matchup, it should be interesting to see how he is. But Florida got their quarterback situation. What's it going to be like? But Florida needs this win bad. And they're playing at home. It's a hard place to play. Billy Napier, I think, is a really good coach. And I don't know. I see that with Florida.
Okay. Colton?
I feel like today's just got a lot of games where it's just like, it's really like even. I feel like both these teams have like the same stuff going for them, minus quarterback, because Miami's got a really good quarterback with a lot of questions. Florida has an okay quarterback with not as many questions. I do think by the end of the season, Florida will not be starting the same guy. So it honestly just depends on who scores first, who plays better defense, because both these teams don't really have amazing defenses. So it's just gonna have to come down to who scores more, who's better.
Okay. And then for both of y'all tonight, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. Jack, what is the key moments here for these two teams?
Well, I'm gonna start with A&M. Being at home, new head coach, compared probably you would assume the defense would be a lot better. Got a quarterback's played a year or two. That home environment's something. Notre Dame, don't really, their record against big wins or in the big games have not really been good. So I just think being at night at A&M, I would look for them and I think their defense will win a game.
Okay. And Colton?
Honestly, the thing that stands out in this one is both teams have extremely underrated quarterbacks, especially Notre Dame. I feel like no one really talks about Riley Leonard. So I just feel like this game is really just, like you said, it's going to come down to who can play better defense, who can shut down the quarterback. So it's be an entertaining game. Should be a high-scoring game, too.
Okay. Well, that is our game picks and just a little bit about our games today. And then just to kind of, because LSU USC tomorrow night should be a really fun game. I just want to quickly get y'all's thoughts on the game. So, Jack, what is going to be big for that game tomorrow night?
Well, I think we'll start with USC's defense. They brought a new defense coordinator from UCLA. They should be better. I mean, they don't have to be top 10, 15 defense. If they're top 50 defense, it would be a whole lot better than what they were. LSU playing a new quarterback. We don't really know what he's going to be like. And being at Vegas, you would think that more of the crowd's going to be more of a USC crowd. And I don't know, USC got a lot to prove. And I don't know. I think the defense will be better. And I feel like they're going to win this one, though.
Okay. Colton?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I feel like Vegas, I feel like they should have found a more central place to play because Vegas just feels most of those people are going to be going for USC. Especially with LSU they're both losing their Heisman quarterbacks. Although I think it'll affect LSU more because at least USC, they always have one of the best recruiting classes as far as like receiver, tight end. Like they're going to still have basically the same team just with better defense and a different quarterback. LSU looks different. So it just depends on who adapts to the new team better. And honestly, I just don't see LSU instantly adapting well. I feel like next year LSU could be really good depending on how this quarterback is if he doesn't go pro. But this would be an interesting game. Should be close.
All righty. Well, folks, that is pretty much all we got for today. Got a big day of college football. So, Jack, anything else you want to say about today?
I'm just ready for it to go.
Colton?
Same.
All right. Well, thank you all for watching. We will see you later tonight at 6:30 for Notre Dame, Texas A&M. So we'll see you later.